that tricky introduction guitar riff to Parasite, often played the wrong way. I always think of the right way as the original way, how it was played on the Alive 1 and of course Hotter Than Hell album. And I've heard Gene describe this lick as like it has a little grease on it. But if you look into the non-makeup years and the way they played it on Alive 4, it's very kind of stiff sounding to me. I always loved that greasy sounding riff, but it's trickier to play. So let's go over that part first. So that kind of sounds like this. All right, so there's kind of like if you think of like ghost strokes that drummers do, then there's kind of these little pick scrapes that oftentimes are basically where the string is muted, but it's not actually fretted, but it adds a little something to it, like Gene describes, a little grease on there. So the frets that you're working off of are the first fret of the low E string, second fret of the low E, and the third fret, and it's like this. So it's just, you're going to pick all that. So if you kind of hear that, you're going to hear that little scrape in there where I'm not actually fretting the notes. Talk about the first time, so it goes. Did you hear that? Up to speed. Now, when we go to the next part, it goes two of those. So you get two of those muted. Now, how they play it on a Live 4 is this. It's, if I can play it. So I can't even play it right, but it's very kind of stiff. That extra little muted part in there, that little, and all it is just that. It's just a muted low E. Turn my guitar so you can see the picking just a little bit here more. Faster. And then up to tempo. And I should say with this, you want to make sure you're doing down up picking. Down up picking meaning down pick, up pick, down pick. So you're alternating that pick up and down as you play the riff. So one more time slow. One more time. And up to tempo. Killer riff, one of my favorite Kiss riffs. So let's jump into that really interesting, kind of out of nowhere. To me, this bridge is so perfect for this song, but it kind of comes out of, it's just not what I would expect to hear, the way they just changed everything up. When Peter does those drum fills and they come out of that, it's like, wow, it just totally just changes the dynamic of the song for a second. So after that kind of mini drum solo, it's played like this. Okay, so what's really interesting about this riff is that the guys are using a lot of, they're playing the same notes, but they're playing up an octave higher. So when you hear that very first part, those are both G notes. So that's a G note on the 3rd fret of the low E, and then it's also played on the 5th fret of the D. So those, it's just an octave higher, but almost sounds different, So basically what you're playing there is 2 downs, then to the D, and one more time, and then we play this riff. So that's going to be 5th fret of the D to 3rd fret of the D to D on the 5th fret of the A, and then we come up here to the 3rd fret of the A. That's going to be 3rd fret to the 1st fret to the 3rd fret of the low E. So let's play that play it very slow first, then we'll play it so you kind of put it together. Then up to tempo. Okay, and then it goes. So there we're adding in a little something different. We're still playing off those octaves, but we're going to add that 5th, which is a C note on the 3rd fret of the A. So that's from C to F on the 1st fret of the low E. And then we're going to go to the 3rd fret of the D and play that extra F, that octave higher F. And then come back to the 3rd fret of the A. And then we come to F sharp, which is the 2nd fret of the low E. We'll repeat that again. And it stops right here. And then the guitar solo starts. So let me play that very, very, very slowly for you so you can hear all those notes clearly. Okay, on to that Ace Frehley guitar solo. So this key of this song is in G minor. So some of this we're going to start off is probably going to be in that G minor pentatonic, which we're familiar with as that blues scale. So usually it's shown in the key of A, which is the 5th position. But if we take that, that blues scale we've learned that, so that would be A. So A is here on the 5th fret of the low E, 7th fret of the G, and then high E, 5th fret. That's all A's. If we just move that down 2 frets, that's G. So if we play that same pattern, so I do have the PDF on the Patreon page. I think it's at the very bottom if you want to print that out, and it has all the positions of the pentatonic scale all over the fretboard up through the I think it actually goes all the way up the neck if I remember correctly, and just shows you how where that root note is. That's how you move the chord around or the scale around. So like in that case, we played we just moved that root to here, which is G, played the same pattern. We could do the same thing. We can move it all the way down here to E, and that would be E minor. We could move it to B. So there's a reference note right there. Another reference note is here on the octave of the low E, which is the D string, in this case the 9th fret. And then of course, if you play whatever you play here, if you play that same fret on the high E, it's going to be the octave. So that's a B, that's a B, that's a B, that's an A, that's an A, that's a G, that's a G. So those are good ways to know as far as a guide by knowing where those root notes are. That helps you move that scale around. So enough of that. The next part is just basically the first thing we do, and it's, we've heard Ace include this in quite a bit of his solos, but he does that. So he's, again, it's so much about the technique, and it's just so, very Jimmy Page quality with this lick. But Ace, as he picks the note, and he's gradually bending up here on the 5th fret of the G string. So he's bending this note up, and in between he's doing a. I'm not sure if you can kind of see, but he's picking the note and then stopping the note with the side of the pick. So it looks like. So up to tempo. Okay, slowly. You've heard that same technique. Ace used that in the Firehouse solo as well. So that's the first part. We're doing the 5th fret of the G. We're slowly bending that up. Once we get it up, we're doing a little bend up here on the 5th fret of the G. Pull off to the 3rd fret of the G. And then we kind of finish right there on the 5th fret of the D. So then we do a, and that's going to be a hammer on from the 3rd fret of the D string to the 5th fret, and then we're going to play this interval, which is, basically playing the 3rd fret of the D and G. So it's not quite a chord because it's just 2 notes, but intervals are a very, very important part of especially rock music. So they, use those things frequently. So really, if you look at it, if we've got a B flat chord here, we're just playing the 5th and the octave here. So technically this would be just a 2-note chord, a power chord, but that's also referred to as the interval. So this would be what they call a perfect 5th. In this case, this is a perfect 4th. You can play that anywhere on the D and G, the same shape. It's a perfect 4th, perfect 4th. But in this case, it's the 3rd fret of the D and G string. So we do a, hold that, and then we're going to come back to that C note on the 5th fret of the G and do a, repeat that. Now I should say, when he does that little vibrato there, that, he's in time with the tempo of the song. So when he does that, and he does the same thing here when we go down to the 10th fret of the G and do it. Okay, now the vibrato. Ace's vibrato is very wide, kind of slow at times, sometimes fast, but a lot of times it's wide and slow. So vibrato is something that's really, really challenging for people to pick up. It comes from the wrist. So you're kind of getting this motion versus this motion up and down with your fingers. So I'll kind of show you how this looks. So we do a you can kind of see that. So I'm kind of rocking my wrist versus doing something like that would be all your fingers, which some guys can get away with that and it sounds great, but this is a more efficient technique, and I think you'll get better control of your vibrato. You'll be better to pitch if you get that wrist involved. So we do that. Same thing again, come down to the 10th. This next lick I love. So Ace adds this kind of little pedal steel country lick. It's so subtle, it's in there just for a second, but it's so cool also. It adds so much personality to this guitar solo. So after we're done with that big wide vibrato here on the 10th fret of the G, that hold it, and then we come up here and go. So that's going to be 3rd fret of the G. We play that. Play the 5th fret of the G, and then pull off from 5 to 3 on the G, and then the 5th fret of the D. So we have. Now, talk about those kind of ghost pick strokes that we did in the introduction riff of Parasite. Same thing here. Did you hear that? So I didn't actually fret anything. This is before I've actually pressed that note down on the 5th fret. I just hit a. So now when you bend that C note up on the 5th fret of the G, you do this. You're going to grab the 6th fret of the high E. And you can kind of see we're still in that G minor pentatonic scale. All that so far we've played is in that scale. So you want to let that note ring as you bring that back down. So you bend it up. You want that to come back down. So we'll go back to this part here. Slowly. With the tempo. And then we do the. Okay, so to play that right. So that is a hammer-on pull-off. So we're still in that G minor pentatonic scale. And we're doing a hammer-on pull-off from 3 to 5 to 3 on the G. And then we do a pull-off from 5 to 3 on the G to, and landing again on the 5th fret of the D. And then we pivot back and forth from the 5th fret of the D to the 3rd fret of the G. And then we do another hammer on. It's going to be from 3rd fret of the G to 5th fret of the G. So let's play that slow. So let's play what we have so far. Okay, and then before we do that, he goes up. Now this is just where basically he's just coming up here low in the neck. It's approximately maybe the 15th fret of the G and just doing a. So you know I'm fretting a note, and then I'm just holding pressure on that string and just letting it kind of slide out till I get to the next part of the song. So. That's all it is, just hold some pressure, go down, and then come back up and trail off. And then so this one, you're doing a hammer-on pull-off on the G to an open G, so it's going to be. So it starts here on the 3rd fret of the G, hammer on to the 5th fret, pull off back to the 3rd. The open. And then we do a. And that's just going to be a pull off from 3rd fret of the G to open G string. And then play this note here on the 3rd fret of the D string 2 times. So. Let's go back. We're going to start that solo from the top, play it very slowly. So now we're going into this now we've added an extra note in there. So we could refer, we're still kind of mostly playing in that, sorry, my amp's kind of doing some weird feedback thing there. So we're still playing in that G minor scale. We've just added a couple of extra notes. So if you look at the true blues scale, it's kind of played something like, it's got all these passing notes in there. And kind of the idea from that is to pass through those notes quickly. So this next lick, this all that we're passing through this note here, we're really not sitting on. So if I'm playing something kind of bluesy, that might work. Kind of adds a little something there to it, but if I pass through it quickly, same thing here on the G string. So by just passing through this note here, it really doesn't fit in the scale, but we kind of get through it. So that's kind of what this lick is like. So what we're doing is playing only on this. This is going to feature a lot of pull-offs here. We do it. And that first part on the high E string, which is going to be 6th fret of the high E, 5th fret of the high E to the 3rd fret of the high E. We're pulling off from 6 to 5 to 3. Ace played a similar lick on Lover All I Can like this. So now I should say before he does that pull off, he does, I think, 4 down up picks before he does it. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the 5th down, you're actually pulling off from 6 to 5 to 3. Now that one lick is played 7 times before you shift and play pretty much the same thing on the the B string. So we're going to pretend this is 7. But you're only going to play it 1 time on the B string. Same thing from 6 to 5 to 3. And then we go to the G. And now we're just doing from 5 to 3 to open. So it's similar to what we played earlier. So let's play this part through all the way through slowly, just so you kind of see how it all goes together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Try that again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on that part, so if we put all the speed, it really sounds blistering. Really great lick there. So when he goes to that last part, that it's similar to what we've already done. So it's just picks here. And then you're going to land here on the 5th fret of the D. And then you're going to do a pull off from 5 to 3, and then pivot back and forth from the 5th of the D to the 3rd of the G. Now this next part took me quite a while to figure out what the heck was going on with this this part of the lick. I've watched so many videos, I just could not figure out what he was doing. And it's a bit of an awkward lick to play, but very cool. What he's doing is he's basically barring across the 5th fret of the G and B and doing a so what you're going to do is you're going to basically play open, and then you're going to fret here on the 5th fret of the G and the B, and then you're going to pull off. So that's kind of tricky because you got to pull. See, I'm kind of almost sweeping my finger, my first finger down. So when you play this, you do. So you kind of see him in between each time that you fret that and pull off, you can play another pick. And then if I can play it right. And then you're going to land here on that 5th fret of the G. Play that big Y vibrato, and then you're going to shift all the way down here to the 12th fret of the G and play an overbend. So it's like so it goes. So that's going to be 10 of the G to the 12, and we're bending up higher than a whole step, so we're kind of bending a whole and a half. And there's that really wide vibrato. So let's play the whole solo slowly through every note. Here we go.